It's been a while since I have contributed anything in my lengthy series on RuneQuest. Partly that was to do with work, and partly it was to do with really not being able to speak for very long periods of time due to the flu. Well, I'm back now. Okay, this week's installment will be a detour of sorts into character creation. A roleplay game put up clips about generating characters in the Mongoose version of RuneQuest, and then later in the RuneQuest 6 version of RuneQuest, so I don't have to get into that kind of detail, but I would like to talk about character creation a bit. The first time I sat down to generate characters, I followed my normal habit, which is I'd read through the rule book. I had read through parts of the rule book that had a lot of details or that I found to be difficult to just remember. And then I decided it was time to make a character. And I make characters in the beginning with a system I'm learning to make everything make sense. I don't start with character creation. I definitely read the rule book first. And then I go through character creation step by step. So RuneQuest offers a variety of methods for generating characters. These are rolling and rearranging, and point buy. Each one has a specific purpose. If you are interested in generating a character to see what you will get, right? You want the challenge of role-playing something, or you have no particular attachment, you're open to playing anything, or you're the game master and you're looking to populate a role-playing environment like a village or something, and you're not invested in the outcome, you just roll it. And those of us who grew up with the early versions of D&D, this is kind of seen as the default method, and it's listed as the default method in the core book. This is how you create a character. The other two methods also have a purpose. The roll and assign is if you have an idea in mind about what sort of occupation you would like to play. So if you would like to play a spellcasting character, or if you'd like to play a martial character, or a smooth talker, whatever, then you roll the stats out and you can adjust them to get as close as possible to that design. And not being able to make it fit perfectly is a part of the experience. Are you exceptional in that area? Maybe more exceptional than you had originally envisioned? Or do you have to struggle to survive in this occupation? This is a part of the experience and helps create the character. The third method, point buy, is where you have a very clear plan in mind. So such as the game master needing to create a cult leader or some kind of NPC that the group is going to be interacting with that needs to be statted out with a certain degree of accuracy. Or, somebody loses their character sheet, we can't quite remember everything, but we have a general sense of what the character was like, and so we build them from scratch. That kind of thing. You know what the outcome is, you assign the points, and you create that character. Right? Creating the villain, what have you. You might even use this in a case where a player has lost their character and the group has become quite capable, and you want to give them the opportunity to rejoin at a similar level of capability. Not a big fan of that, but that's another use for point buy. So we have these three character types, or character creation methods. So what I did first was go to the very first page of character creation and go through to the very end of character creation. I didn't pay a lot of attention to what step was coming next. I focused on the steps. The reason why I do that is to see where the character creation process can become confusing. So the very first time I went through character creation, it took me about 40 minutes. It took this long because I was flipping back and forth in the rulebook, although that's really not necessary. There is a one-page character creation guide, which makes it all very, very simple with page references and everything. But I went through the chapter piece by piece. It took me 40 minutes. Part of this was actually having ideas about the character, and part of it was taking notes about the character creation process. All right. This very second time I went through the character creation process was to create a particular occupation. So the first time I used rolling 3d6 or 2d6 plus 6 depending on the trait in question, and the second time I rolled 3d6 and assigned the points where I wanted them to go to create a particular occupation. Even though I was going through with a purpose and so looking for very specific skills the second time, it only took me 20 minutes to make a character. Subsequent run-throughs have been short. And part of this is just familiarity. I don't have to flip as much. I know that this part involves a random table if I want. Like, for example, family. The very first character I created, I was just seeing what I got. So I went through all of the random tables about immediate family, about social standing, and culture, and etc., etc. So the character was generated in all aspects randomly, and then I filled in the fine details from my imagination. The second character was designed to be a magic-using character, a spellcaster, a sorcerer in particular, and so had very specific design requirements. And I wasn't really interested in their social background, so I just picked off the list. I wasn't interested in being surprised in that. I just picked the results that I wanted off the list. So depending on your needs in the game, character creation can be very, very short and not very detailed, or it can be a lengthy discovery process where your brain is just firing all the time with imaginative responses. I think one of the most important parts of this process is to actually let yourself be inspired. To go through and say, oh, this gives me a great idea. Like, for example, with the very first character I created, the traits, bizarrely, were almost entirely 13s. Like 13 strength, 13 dexterity, 13 intelligence, 13 power. But the size trait turned out to be an 18. So we've got this guy, kind of on the upper end of average, who's huge. You know, either very, very tall and thin, or, you know, some other combination of these things, but he's a really big guy, the kind of the end point of human size capability. And that little element was enough to get me thinking about how this character's childhood may have affected decisions. Right? He's going to be huge, he's going to be huge, he's going to be huge, but, you know, his strength really isn't anything to get up in the night and yell about. And his constitution was very poor. It was only an 8. So ideas of this kid growing up to be, you know, a mighty warrior, totally dashed. He's, you know, got a glass jaw. He's, you know, maybe prone to sickness, or he gets cold in the wintertime. And, you know, really, the expectation of becoming a warrior may have made that outcome impossible in this character's mind. Not that there's anything in these stats that preclude him from becoming a warrior, but I just mean the idea of this huge disparity between constitution and strength and his massive size started me thinking about personality. And I took this further as we went. And it was a really interesting process. I really enjoyed seeing this character come to life. And this is a part of the game that so often is a private thing. People go away and create their character and come back and try and tell us about it. And what I'd like to experience with this RuneQuest experiment of mine is that we all enjoy this together. We all sit down, we all create, or we go through the creation process of these characters together, so that everybody around the table gets to see a bunch of random statistics come to life. Right? In the same way that as we play the game together, we'll see the character grow. Right? Being around during the character's inception will enable us to get some hooks into aspects of their personality that we're interested in seeing develop, and then in play, as things naturally occur, those changes will mean a lot more to us. And it won't be a matter of each individual player having to kind of insert or try and find a way to have their character growth and development matter in the story. It will just naturally be there. I kind of like this idea. More specifically for my RuneQuest experience, there will be alternate races, and these are races that I will be, or that I have been developing myself. So what that means is there will be a human character creation process, which is standard across RuneQuest in its various editions, and then there will be the character creation process for other races. Some aspects will be the same, such as each race will, or species will be choosing culture and occupational backgrounds and the like. But the character traits will not be the same. The attributes will be generated differently. And so the concept of balance, which went around YouTube this week, comes in, because these species, as represented in the game, will not be equal. Some characters will have the capacity to be much stronger, and they have not been implemented in my vision of this game world as being equivalent. Like you gain a d6 for strength but lose a d6 for charisma. You know, no, characters will be rolling different sized dice, having the same possible minimums, a 3, but their maximums are not going to be following the same delimiters. And so players that want to be a part of this experiment need to recognize the fact that not all the characters will be created equally. They'll all be equally important, but their underlying statistics may put them in completely different classes. You might be playing a character that has no mechanical bonuses based on their attributes versus a character who is, you know, a very powerful character right out of the gate, mechanically speaking. In the kind of game that we'll be playing, this doesn't matter. If you're familiar at all with RuneQuest, you can see examples of this kind of thing if you look at Stormbringer. Melnibonéan characters are built on a completely different set of attribute characteristic generators than are humans. They come with different roleplay requirements, and the same will be experienced in my campaign setting. The exciting part of this campaign setting, of course, is that players will be as involved, if not more involved, in what those social and cultural and personality limiters are as I am.